Andy Copeland compared you to John Wayne, but John Wayne ain't got nothing on you. Let me see the hands of all of you who were in New Orleans when this three-star general rolled his convoy into the city of New Orleans to rescue those of us who were left wet, defeated, hopeless, and quite frankly, pissed. Now, General, I remember you because I was sitting at the anchor desk when you rolled in. And I immediately felt a sense of pride because the federal government had taken it from us. When you disembarked the lead convoy vehicle and said to those police officers who were roaming the streets with their gun drawn, and I quote, "Put those damn guns down. I ain't gonna tell you again, damn it." You remember that?
Yeah. Kinda.
What compelled you to make those statements at the time? Had you been watching what was going on?
Well, that happened on Friday. And on Thursday afternoon, there was a news bulletin came out that said there were snipers in New Orleans. And then people at the state, a lot of the news media at the national level was putting the heat on the president that the city had lost civil control. That's a precursor to posse comitatus waiver. If the local government lose civil control. I know that shit because I used to be in the Pentagon. And we used to help people lose civil control. And this was not that. And what that led to was a call from the White House saying, are there snipers in New Orleans? And it came out from an official who had been up in a helicopter and said something to the effect to a reporter when he landed on Thursday afternoon, snipers were shooting at him. And my response back to the White House was, let me go see this individual, he was a leader, and we'll get this sorted out. So I saw him and he said, oh yeah, General, they were shooting at us. I said, what they were doing was trying to get your attention. Like most Americans, we watch too much TV, and we think if you shoot a gun in the air, a helicopter hear you, they won't. They might see you, but they're not gonna hear you with the noise of the helicopter. And I said, that's probably right. Oh, by the way, if it was a sniper, he must have been a real bad sniper because he didn't even hit the damn helicopter, bro. So we got that sorted out. We got the White House settled down that we did not need the 82nd Airborne to be airdropped in here and the Special Forces group because we had lost civil. That was Thursday evening. You remember Thursday is a big day to move out of the Superdome, and we were left from that conversation with the White House and said, okay, well go tell the media that there's no snipers. So I went around the street and one of my famous little skinny guys with a little narrow head, talking a lot about looting, was standing there and he waved to him and I went over and he said, are there snipers in the city? I said, hell no, there's no snipers here. If there were snipers out here, you wouldn't have your ass standing right here.
Is that when you said, coin the phrase, don't get stuck on stupid?
No, that came later to the next day. But that's how we got to this point. Of Friday morning, we were bringing in National Guard troops, but what they heard Thursday evening was an announcement from our beloved governor, and I think she did it with the best of response because she was getting a lot of heat about the looting in the city. And I never classified it as looting when people go get food and water. That is some people go into survival mode. And there were all these pictures of people going in stores and getting food and water. and said, "Oh, look, they're taking tennis shoes too." Yeah, because they got no stuff to wear, bro. And they're
Common
walking in
sense
this
had to
water.
prevail, right?
It's not a resale. They're not doing resale on the corner, bro. And every now and then you might see a dude with a 52-inch TV on his back and waist deep water. Don't worry about him. You can catch him later, but don't shoot him. Something's wrong with him. People in their right mind don't do shit like that. But we had to calm down this idea, and if you watch the documentary that's out now on National Geographic, they put that in context, and they did a great job explaining that people were in the survival mode. This was not looting in the classic way where we talk about looting.
How did you, once you got the situation under control, how did you maintain the control?
Oh, I never had control.
No?
No. Well, in the middle of a disaster, it's total chaos. But the idea is to give appearance of control.
Okay, so how did you maintain that appearance?
Because we had guys like the New Orleans Fire Department. We had the police department. We had our great Louisiana National Guard. How about a big round of applause for our first responders? And we had our great EMS team represented tonight by Laura Stand-Up Hill. She was a medic 20 years ago, 9 months experience, and I took a picture with her at the convention center, I think it was, and she's here tonight representing the EMS team. And thanks, Chief, for the fire department. Those people were dealing with the chaos, and my job I saw as being to deal with the misinformation and the rumors. You know, we had rumors from, well, they're blowing the levees in.
And they're raping the babies in the Superdome.
Right, and oh, la, 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 la. And the sniper issue. We had to deal with misinformation. Because if you didn't deal with it, somebody else would deal with it who knew less than you. So I tried to respond to questions people had. Now, the people who needed this information, they wasn't getting it. Anybody here was standing at the Superdome? Or at the convention center? Good. Make sure you evacuate the next time too. Those people, the message that the governor had, I'm telling them to shoot on sight, that didn't make it to the convention center and the Superdome. Those people had no information hardly. There was a couple of radios around, so that went to the national media to say, we're going to get control of this and we'll shoot on sight. So we had to clean that messaging up because America needed to know that we wasn't stupid. We put the people on the moon. We could fire a bomb from 9 miles away and put it through that window and hit that third table.
Well, it gave us great pause when we heard President George Bush say, "Great job, Brownie." We didn't know whether he was being smart or not.
I mean, it is what it is. But you gotta understand, President Bush in his own personality is a pretty jovial guy. He's not a master of like Copland is and could read that thing up there. I mean, that's not. But I think he was trying to calm the nation because he was taking a lot of heat. I mean, hey, Kanye West saying he don't care about black people. Well, Kanye, this is a black city, bro. And if the roads are closed, the airport's closed, and the 80% of the river city on the water, it's gonna take a minute. This is not a version of Homeland that you see on TV when they start with 5 crises and they're all solved in an hour. It was gonna take a minute. Now, I probably could have done this the day before if the Pentagon had released the aircraft and troops I wanted the Friday before Katrina, because
Well, that's what I was wondering as a reporter who had interviewed Max Mayfield from the National Hurricane Center that Thursday night, who said it was going to be bad. And I asked the mayor why he didn't evacuate 100,000 people who had no means of transportation. And he said he had to look into the legality of it. So you too had asked.
well, yeah, you see most of these guys, these top politicians don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, since Katrina, we've created a class for mayors and governors to go to. But back then, they didn't know jack. Now they had professional staff to deal with it, but in the case of Katrina, they didn't know the protocols. But back to the point of, I could have probably been here a day earlier, but with 80% of the city underwater, and with about 60,000 people thereabout in the city had done something remarkable. 80% of this city evacuated. That's the highest evacuation we've ever had for a damn hurricane. Did y'all know that?
No, that story didn't get told.
80% of the city evacuated. Because you see, in a disaster, it is chaos. If it's smooth as butter, it ain't a disaster, it's a damn inconvenience. The levees broke and 80% of your city is underwater. The river ran north, the river is closed with barges. The airport's closed, there's no power. The phone service down and the police cars in the water. Thank God the fire department had moved some of their trucks up north, and the National Guard that's here are at Jackson Barracks underwater because when the levee broke. The majority of the Louisiana National Guard was in Iraq fighting the war. They were on patrol in Baghdad.
General, to what extent did you have to manage the situation here on the ground and the situation in Washington, D.C. from people who were telling you, giving you orders to do things that they didn't have any idea what they were talking about?
Well, the good news, I didn't get many orders. They, when you're an Army commander, and many people in the Army didn't understand what an Army commander do. If you remember the movie D-Day and you've seen the picture of Bradley on the beach?
Yes.
He commanded First Army during World War II. And if you go back to World War I, the guy who commanded First Army was a dude named Black Jack Pershing. That's some pretty damn big personalities. And the mission we had, First Army, was to live up to that reputation. But they were being shot at. All we would do, move through the water and take care of Americans. So we had to meet the moment. To answer your question, we had to meet the moment. And this was a logistics operation. What is the military good at? Logistics. What's the good at? Communications and comms.
So there weren't instances where people in Washington were trying to undo your logistics?
Oh yeah, the screwdrivers were, we call it the 2,100-mile screwdriver. They were people playing with it. I told a story earlier, when we brought the hospital ship in, I wanted it to go right near the convention center, but we eventually brought in some cruise ships. And in the night, I slept between midnight and 5:30. That was my sleep cycle. And while I was asleep, there was a Deputy Secretary of Defense ordered that ship to go up to the Ninth Ward.
While you were sleeping?
Yeah, that's where he thought it should go. In a place where there was no people, everybody's out. We've evacuated the Ninth Ward. But he's watching Anderson Cooper and making decisions in Washington in a 70-degree building with running water and toilets and hot coffee. So yeah, there were people out there trying to use the screwdriver, as we call it in the military, to adjust operation. But it was such a fast pace, and when the government saw that we were getting the impact, they sort of backed down.
Backed off.
Backed down. As a matter of fact, the president had a meeting in Baton Rouge with the governor and her staff to include senators, and said, until we get this evacuation done and get this thing quiet down, y'all let this general run this. And if there's a problem, y'all talk to him.
Let's pivot now onto Black philanthropy. How did your experience in the military factor into your philanthropic endeavors? I noted that you started a scholarship program at Southern University of New Orleans. I think Warren Bell was your first curator. I think you started a program at Southern University Baton Rouge for undergraduates as well. How did your military training play into that?
Well, I came out of a volunteer army. So the big thing is, how do you get people to do something and enable them to do something they want to do? And when we created the Honoree Center under President Mason at Southern, the idea was the A students in Louisiana got tops. We wanted to focus on the C students. The kids that didn't have an option, they didn't quite have all the tools to go, but they had a will to go, and they didn't have some of the social support at home. And that was an inspiration to me, because I was a C student. You know, C students a break, we can do it too.
Absolutely.
We just gotta read it twice. And I was inspired by that, and the program is still alive at SUNO in New Orleans. And it's sustained through some help from the legislature and for people like you. Thank you very much.
How significant is that for African Americans to be involved in philanthropy?
Well, I think it was stated earlier. I mean, our roots is taking care of one another in the community. I mean, that's what through the church, primarily, and through the little small schools. Remember, I went to a little public school in Lakeland, and they moved us out of the church from a wood building, and they put us in a brick building, no air conditioning, and we started school early, and the principal talked to my dad. Now, it's a public school, and said, we need you to come level that ground around the school. So he brought the old sugarcane tractor over, and a couple of my brothers, and they worked the school ground. So our people know how helping one another is important. Back then, it was mostly in-kind or labor, or if they were going to have a meal at the school, they would kill a pig and bring it over. This is part of our culture, and that's why people don't get it about Louisiana and about the South and about poor people. We could have a good time on Saturday night with nothing, because we had each other. You with me? You know, right now you have a party and you get a case of Prosecco, and you gotta have a chef. No, we were doing this for generations when they let us off on Saturday night. You with me? So we took care of one another. We gotta continue to take care of one another.
Why is it? I noticed that your personality, you're plain spoken. You get to the core of the issue, and you use a language that people can identify with. You're not trying to be pretentious. You're not talking down to people. Why is that important to you?
Well, of all the skills you have, and having commanded an army and having raised 4 children, it is important not to speak where you have to be interpreted. Because you can get so sophisticated that you expect people to make reference or inference to what you're saying. Speak plain. Speak clear. And look at people and see, are they listening? Are they getting it? Because I've learned a little something along nonverbal communications is just as important that people can send you a message as the verbal. I had a little training on that along the way. So it's important to speak with some degree of clarity. And the other thing I wasn't burdened with, I wasn't a politician. God bless them. As Huey Long said, politician, you got 3 things. Get reelected, get reelected, and get reelected. I had a mission, and I was and am not a politician. I'm used to taking tasks and leading people to accomplish that. And the politicians have a much bigger burden because they got to do things that are popular and bred into the word of a politician. God bless them for their service. But a politician is going to answer that question with what he thinks the majority of the people in the room want to hear. And I'm not encumbered by that because I don't give a damn.
let me ask you this question, because a lot of times in the military, being plain spoken can get you in trouble. I remember I was in the Marine Corps, and a captain was telling me that you should apply for officer candidate school. He said, but there's one thing about it. He says you probably could make it to the rank of colonel, but you could never be a general because you are politically recalcitrant. You're no shrinking violet. How did you manage to? How did you?
Well, I didn't always act this way. I was a very good subordinate, Captain, Major, and Lieutenant Colonel. I mean, you don't go beyond where your shadow take you.
Okay.
That's the limits of your power. But when you're a damn Army commander,
Yeah.
people expect you to get stuff done, accomplish the mission. That's what's expected, because our predecessors, when you look at the artifacts here, the things that people operated this equipment, on D-Day, 9,000 casualties in one day. And all we got to do is come evacuate the city, piece of cake. We can do this.
Last question. What is your take, and are you optimistic about the future of DEI in this country?
I'm optimistic that we can get back and ensure equity. I grew up just wanting to go in the front of the store and not have to be served at the side window. That was a big move. After going to 12 years of school, segregated school in Punkaby Parish. I think when we go back and look, and I was in a conversation with some folks yesterday that had some grants that was subsequently canceled. There's one lady planted trees just to help save the earth with a sizable grant from USDA. But when she submitted her last grant, she had to have a DEI statement. And she had to say something about environmental justice. And as soon as them Doge boys went in there and they saw those key words, DEI, the lady ain't planting trees no more. So I think we might have went, as opposed to acting it out and not mandating it. Because our people learn how to adapt and overcome over centuries. But I think it's hard to mandate something that has caused a lot of friction, particularly in this transition, because there are people, as we said, they're overstepping now and degrading artifacts and not telling the real history. I'm more concerned with equity in the education system and that schools are properly funded and that we've got proper education and health care. I would hope we could grow to a place where that you don't have to have your DEI statement on the front of your building. Because that's how far we have gotten. Show me your DEI statement. Let me see your staff. But we have gotten to a point in the last 4 years to be in the in crowd, your website needed to have a DEI statement. No, let me see your board. Let me see who your managers are. Because that statement to a lot of people didn't mean jack.
Absolutely.
It was just out there. Let me see who your subcontractors are. That is what I'm looking for.
I think that is the ultimate. That's what we're all looking for.
Right, but America's changing, and the world's changing. We're going from 7 to 10 billion people in the world. You got to go home and tell your kids, they got to figure out how we're going to solve problems. Going from 7 to 10 billion people in the world with less clean water. We got less clean drinking water today than we had yesterday, and we're going to have less next year. The temperature in the Gulf yesterday hit a record 91 degrees. History. You're watching it happen. It's hotter this year than it was last year. It's going to be hotter next year than it is this year. We got to solve these problems. To go from 7 to 10 billion people, we got to raise 30% more food on less land. We got to solve problems. We've got to get our kids to understand, to get back to the age of guys like Ben Franklin who just invented stuff. We got to solve these problems, Mr. Robinson. And we got to embrace the impossible. Not run away from it, we got to embrace it. And that has got to be in our culture. And we got to have a cultural shift that takes us to a point that we can solve these problems. So we can leave the next generation in a safe place. But we got to save our democracy too. We can pray about it, but we got to move our feet. It's time for we took the break. Let's get up and move our feet, like Chisholm said. We can pray about it, but you got to move your feet.
Thank you, General.
And we need to be enthusiastic about our democracy.
We've got our marching orders. We appreciate your plain spokenness. We appreciate your passion. We appreciate your integrity.